Hello and welcome to Overcome a Mental Health Podcast. I am your host, Travis White. This is a place for you to share your mental health stories. I'm very excited for tonight's guest. I'm speaking with Tony Kessel. Tony is the author of All in the Lyrics, How Music Helped Me Heal and Find My Voice. In this music memoir, he built the playlist of his life discussing topics ranging from nostalgic impact of music, mental health, coming of age, and pop culture. Tony, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Travis.
The pleasure's all mine. I think we've been doing a little bit of talking pre-show, and I think we're going to have a great conversation.
Yes, absolutely.
So without wasting any more time, I'm just going to turn the microphone over to you and have you tell the listeners about your journey.
Yeah. So as you said, I'm the author. It's all in the lyrics, how music helped me heal and find my voice. So really what happened there, linking music to mental health immediately is all of my life I've used music as a drug. So been through a lot of different things, from going to foster home as a young child to legal adoption. My parents got divorced and trying to sift through that and what, all the things that, a kid faces, and trying to find any type of identity. And I found my identity in music. And so back then, so for example, the story I usually tell, or quick snapshot, is when I went to foster home, I was like trying to figure life out, and I was sitting in the back seat of my foster dad's 1992 Ford Tempo, and we were driving, and the window was open as the wind's blowing through my hair. Garth Brooks's "That Summer" came on the radio, and obviously the lyrics to that song is way inappropriate now, but and it's not what I was feeling. But there's this desperation that is in the music and these undertones and the lyrics that made me feel something. They made me feel alive. They made me feel that hope, despite such a desperate situation, was possible. Um, Really what it came down to is, I serve in the military. I'm a full-time member of the New Mexico National Guard. So I've been doing that for about 6 years. And all of the mental health stuff, in terms of trying to break this cycle that I didn't appreciate and trying to establish an identity. And then I went on a deployment, came back, and ended up getting a divorce myself. And I had a child in that first marriage. So it's like the very thing that I hated, I repeated in my life. And so going through all of those things, and just song at a time, basically, like what piece of music did I use to get through that moment? And it's not all dark, as mental health never is. There are ups and downs. There are high moments. Most of my high moments are in mosh pits, in concerts, and but or a new discovery of an album that reawoke something in me. So yeah, after everything, as far as my divorce and coming back from my deployment, and kind of hit the skids, and had a really severe bout with mental health stuff, to the point where I didn't immediately I have suicide attempts, but I didn't immediately seek help. And it took my first panic attack before I started getting into that. And basically the indicator to me was when I started losing interest in new releases and music altogether. And so really just getting on the other side of that, finally seeking counseling, doing what I needed to do to get better and heal and forgive myself and forgive people in my past for mistakes that were made. And really coming to the end of that, I went to a Garth Brooks concert again in 2017. And as I was going to this concert, I was at Drill in Roswell, New Mexico, and I was driving back to Las Cruces. And I was listening to Garth Brooks, and I went on this trip, just this nostalgic trip of life in the 90s and how things were different. And, I looked back and I was like, man, I didn't even imagine that my life would pan out this way. I never meant to join the army. I have a degree in political science. I was the first college graduate in my family. And so it's like all of these things, you're like, how in the world did all of that child that felt so helpless listening to Garth Brooks, how did he get here? Well, went to the concert, and as you know, he retired in 2000, which kind of forced me into other music. I moved from Garth to naturally 90s country. And when country artists didn't do what Garth did, I started like shifting over Radio Rock, Everclear, Fuel, Matchbox 20, that type of stuff. And then I took a hard turn. My first rock album was Creed's Human Clay. And so once I got into that, it was like point of no return. I grew up in a Christian home, and so Assembly of God, and they were like, "Oh, music is satanic. You're not allowed to listen to it." And so for a long time, I was like, "Oh no, like stay away. Country's okay. Rock is bad." As I started getting into rock and understanding the lyrics and the darkness and really finding the hope, I took a hard turn into like new metal, Korn, Slipknot, Drowning Pool, System of a Down, Coal Chamber. I could go on and on and on. Well, as I'm coming back from this concert, I put my iPod on shuffle and I was driving back to 3 hours, and my favorite songs were playing, and I kind of took the rest of the trip. I was like, man, this is crazy to think like that little kid who was so optimistic, so happy, so healthy, didn't even know how bad my life was, to this point where I'm fully aware of how bad things can be, but to see the healing and the redemption one song at a time. I basically decided to build the playlist of my life, or the soundtrack of my life, one song at a time. And I basically just wrote the memoir of my life, built the soundtrack or the playlist on various streaming platforms, and wrote about everything. And really, what it comes down to is what you talk about here all the time with your podcast: is our stories matter. They have significance. The things that we've been through, the things that we've experienced, they're worth sharing. And for a long time, I was unwilling to share those stories, largely because I felt like I was the only one. Like as I walked around the streets of my town or the hallways of my high school, I was the only kid in foster home. It was me and the other guy in my foster home, and I just didn't feel like I had a place. I didn't feel like anyone understood exactly what I felt. Well, as I've moved on and started sharing pieces of my story, I'm finding that people relate to things a lot more than I would ever admit. And it's through having conversations with dudes like you that I'm starting to realize that not only is there healing in me hearing what you have to say, there's healing for you in me sharing what I have. There's a connection to be like, wow, I'm not alone. I don't have to suffer through this. If I find safe people to talk to and kind of trudge through this, and we get to a place where mental health recovery is real. So it's kind of the once around the world in a nutshell. But
It's super cool. Like, I think it's cool that you spent that time and built this playlist and
yeah,
wrote a memoir out of it. Like, I would have never thought to do that, but it'd be, I'd be interested to sit and think about it on my end to see what songs like popped out, like what would pop up for me and be like, okay, well, what significant role did this song play in my life?
yeah,
So, but you brought up another point that I want to touch on too is you, in a way, I'm not going to say, I'm sure in the exact words you said it, but in a way you said that kind of admitting that you have a problem, like mental health or whatever, is tough to do.
yes,
And I just wanted to acknowledge that because I think that's the first step to healing is to admit that you are going through something and not look past it.
yes, yeah, very much so. You have to hit rock bottom, and I talk about all that stuff in this book. So specifically, I just admitted, to your listeners that I attempted suicide 3 times in a 48-hour period. Believe it or not, that wasn't my rock bottom. That was like somewhere along the descent. And I think you got to get to a place where you're willing to throw some of those shot, like they're not insignificant. I'm trying to be very cautious in the words. It feels so terrifying to be like, "Hey, I need help," and being willing to admit that, but still, it is freeing in a way, and it becomes a certain point when you hit rock bottom. Finally, is you have nothing left to lose at that point. So let me spin it back on you, because
Yeah,
that was in the promo stuff. That was kind of the question, and that's the discussion. Really, I want to
yeah.
start is like, if you were to build your life's playlist, what songs would you put on it? And that's kind of what I want people to think Do you have any examples from your perspective? Like one song that was like, dude, this was the song and it was there in that moment where people didn't
Let's
have the words.
let's see. I know one song for sure that would go on it, and I honestly at this moment can't tell you why. I've just been in love with the song. It's like one of those ones that I can listen to. It just helps me when I'm having a bad day. And it's Chiodos, the word's best friends come redefined. Is that what it is? The word best friend become redefined. And I think it's because when I first heard that song, it's like it just resonated with me. Like it's musically, lyrics and everything. I'm just like, you know what? This is one of my go-to songs when I'm having a hard day. Even though it has nothing to do with having a hard day. I honestly, if I'm thinking about it right, it's more of like let's see, I'm trying to think of, yeah, it's because Craig Owens writes more about almost like past relationships and that type of stuff. But
Yeah.
that would definitely be on there. And then I would say, I don't know what particular, but a Garth Brooks song would definitely be on there. And I'm not
Yeah.
just saying that because of you mentioned his name. I'm saying that because I listen to him a lot and he's there in a lot of my like childhood memories, like especially with my dad. Um, and my mom, I would say I would put a Celine Dion song on there. I,
My mom was Celine Dion as well, man. That's crazy.
my playlist would be all over the place.
Yeah. Mine is. It's
Yeah, I I think it's really cool that like the Garth Brooks song is it's like to me it's almost like that defining song that made you realize that music is a coping mechanism.
yeah. Yeah. And it's like I said, I mean, you pay attention that summer I just told you about being a metalhead
Yeah.
and like when I left high school and went to college, like I went as a metalhead, so no one knew that I listened to 90s country. On my deployment, Lone Star came through and I was a huge Lone Star fan. You know, I was one of those
Mm-hmm.
guys I'm like Garth Brooks is my favorite male artist, Mindy McCready's my favorite female artist, and Lone Star is my favorite band. Like
Yeah.
I segregated so I could still call them all my favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I loved Lone Star, and Lone Star came through Kuwait on my deployment, and I deployed with Tennessee, which is why a lot of these country dudes came out, and people were like, "How do you know these songs, man?" They
Hey,
see me at my
they didn't
dad's
know. Yeah.
listening to Slipknot, and I'm in the back, like, already there. They're like, "How do you know this
Yeah.
song, Kessel?" I don't know. So
Yeah. I've been through that metal phase too, or metal emo, whatever,
yeah,
where that's basically all I was listening to. And I hated country for a long time.
yeah,
And then back in the day, my fiance, who's now my wife, got me to start listening to like Luke Bryan and Cole Swindell.
okay,
And I was like, so we went to Luke Bryan concert, and he's fantastic live. If you ever get a chance to see him, he's just a good entertainer. But I was like, okay, I can do this. I can do this. And then from there, I've started getting into more country. It's like, I don't listen to the heavy stuff in front of my kids.
yeah, yeah.
But I do have a question for you. So, there's, all sorts of songs, and we've talked about all sorts of genres and stuff. How has the meaning of certain songs changed as you've evolved and healed?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So there's certain songs, and I'm a huge music fan, love concerts, hang out in like you remember back in the day chat rooms. Like I used to hang in music discussion chat rooms on WinMX and try to find new albums all the time. And like as you're talking to music fans, they're like, oh well, this song like I went through this tragic thing while this song was playing, and I can't listen to it anymore. For the most part music, like, it's still binding it. I still feel it's very teleportive, if you know what I mean. It's like
Mm-hmm.
anytime I hear that summer, I automatically imagine myself and I get that feeling of being a helpless 8-year-old child in the back seat of that vehicle, wind blowing through my hair and just being like, man, what are you gonna do? Like, these people don't know you, your parents don't want you, like, what are you gonna do? That desperation, I feel it, but I still love the song. Like, it over time, because that song is about an inappropriate relationship between a farmhand and a widowed woman, but over time, that song, it felt hopeful then. There was this desperation, but, like, this moment of connection and unity that I didn't understand back then. But now it's like, look at how far you've come. Look at that day and then look at today. Look at how much certainty you've obtained. Look at how much you've healed. Look at the connection that you have with your parents, even though you went to foster home. I think that's some of it, and it will always be my favorite song. Like, I will never stop liking that just because of what it did for me.
Yeah.
When no one else felt like they were there, Garth Brooks was. So I got like this almost like parasocial relationship with Garth Brooks. Like, if I ran into him, I'd be like, "Hey man, remember?" Like, he's like, "No, I don't. I've sold over 100 million albums, man. I don't know you." You know? And I think that's part of it too, is like these these people being the artists that I listen to kind of gave me the courage. The whole obnoxiously long subtitle is literal, is find my voice to tell my story, but also like I'm sitting in my home studio right now.
Yeah.
So like writing and recording music to be I used to want to be a rock star when I was a kid, but now it's more so like, what do I do to give people what has been given to me? You know, how do I write about dark times and move that on? So really, I think that's the power of music, is that you do have the ability to see how far you've come, and you get to reflect on that moment. Some people, like I said, they're like, "Oh, I can't." I was huge into Corn. Eventually, I entered into the faith community and became a Christian, and like gave up all my secular music for a little while because I thought that's what I had to do. And you would think one of the darker periods in 2004, like Corn, I'd be like, "Oh, I can't listen to him." I couldn't immediately, because I went through a period of suicidal ideation when I first got into college as well, and I blamed Corn because that's the scapegoat is to blame
Yeah.
the music, right? But eventually, over time, I was like, you know what? Like, they made me connect. They made me understand that there is a darkness. And whereas Garth Brooks is like, dream is like a river, like everything is super hopeful and everything's awesome. Well, Corn was like, nah, it's not. Like, there's abuse, there's neglect, there's pain, there's torment, there's bullying, there's like all this stuff that people refuse to talk about. And they're just thrusting it on the main stage on MTV and
Yeah.
forcing people to look at themselves honestly. And I think that's how music continues to transform for me specifically, is being able to look back at that stuff with fondness and realize how far your journey has taken you away from that point, that desperate dark point.
Yeah. And it's crazy to me that there's like the dark music too that you were just talking about. Like, Korn has some pretty dark lyrics that how healing that can be too.
Yes.
Is this like some of the music that I listen to now, like for some reason. So I went through a hard time last year. I I have a seizure disorder,
Okay.
and it came back like full force last year. Like it's been years since I've had it, but I had a cluster of seizures last year. And every time this happens, I get really depressed. But I became fairly suicidal. I ended up having to call the hotline, and I locked myself in a room, and like I called the hotline. I was like, I don't know what to do. I had a brother-in-law call me and like just you know talk me down whatever I was going through. But ever since then, it's like my music took a really dark turn,
Oh,
and
okay.
I listened to some really, really, I'd say I almost, it's not that I didn't listen to heavy stuff before, but I almost listen to like heavier stuff now, especially when I'm feeling that like rut of depression coming on. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to throw this band on because I know that it's going to have that heaviness that I want to hear right now.
Yeah.
And it's going to help me through this.
Yeah. And how are you doing today? Are things
Yeah, I have ups and downs. I It took me a while to get out of my depression mode. Um, but like I suffer from anxiety too. But for me, anxiety has always been something that's always been easier to like push aside because I can recognize that those are just bad thoughts. But the for some reason, depression, like when it gets here, it sticks a little bit longer. But it's taken a lot of like therapy and stuff to come to where I'm at today. And I have this. Like this is the reason why I'm doing this is because I went through all that and I was like, you know what? I have a story to tell and I
Yeah,
want people to share their stories.
yeah,
And so I feel like every time I talk to somebody, I get a free therapy session.
yeah. Ain't that true, man? And thank you for sharing a piece of your story with me. That's such a vulnerable piece of your life.
Yeah. I think it's not always easy to be vulnerable, but I think it's a good thing. Like I think it's because I think some people need to see that side of everyone to be able to stand up and say, you know what, like I have a story too, and I'm not alone. Like the everybody's dealing with shit like
Yeah,
that they're going through.
yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where, again, kind of linking it back to music, is that I found as I did open up, a lot of people will listen, but you can watch their eyes glaze over, especially everyone's been through something. Everyone's going through something. But there have been some people that I've interacted with over time that as I'm talking, they're like, I can't even relate. Like they don't know what it feels like to want to end your life, to take your own life. And you just watch their eyes glass over as you like, and you're like, all right, you're not a safe place. You're not a dangerous person, but you definitely
You don't
aren't the
understand.
target
Yeah.
audience. Yeah. But music, you know, Garth Brooks had a song, I Don't Have to Wonder, for his album Sevens. And so basically, are you familiar with the song that I'm talking about?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When I was a kid, I was like, this poor dude, he's got to watch his ex-girlfriend get married and it's so sad. And he's standing on this bridge and he's very sad. It wasn't until later when I got into metal that I was like, that dude killed himself at the end of that song. He threw the ring off the bridge and he's like, I'm gone. It's over. The whole angels sing like thunder, like he ended his life. And so you're thinking about it and like now all of a sudden I'm like, why would anyone ever want to do that?
Yeah.
Foster home and, you know, juvenile detention, all the things that I went through and how the thought never crossed my mind. I was like, oh, life's still awesome. But yeah, they will listen to a song. They won't necessarily talk for 40 minutes or an hour or 2 hours or go to the therapy session type, but they will listen to a song and be like, I don't, that makes me feel something and I don't know if I like it or not. And it makes them have to enter, and it's that same vulnerability that you and I are talking about and sharing such a tragic or traumatic moment in our lives that makes art what it is you need that vulnerability, to truly connect with people. And that's the part of music. Like I don't like the hokey, like fist pumping party anthem jams. Like I'm
Yeah.
I'm more so like I like the things to be like, wow, show me a part of your soul because I need that.
You want the deep, like the more of the connection through whether it's the instruments or the lyrics. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm I'm the same way.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah. And we got something in common there. But I was just thinking of a side note, it's kind of off topic, but something that you made me think of just a few minutes ago was I remember like my wife was like, "Why do you like all this heavy stuff?" And this was like a while ago because I feel like some of the heavy stuff now has gotten darker than it used to be as far as like the lyrics go. Because you have a lot of, I wouldn't necessarily call them Christian hardcore bands because they don't like to go by that genre, but like you have like Under Oath and The Devil Wears Prada,
Yes.
kind of that John,
Yes.
like those mix of bands that Norma Jean could probably be thrown in
Yes.
there,
Yeah.
where they used to, they sing kind of in a way about God and like good things in life, where may not be the case now, but
Yeah.
I would always say, well, they're screaming about God, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, you just can't understand them. I said, well, I can understand them. And I said, and you listen to R&B and the pop stuff that, talks about sex and drugs, and
Yeah.
so I feel like I have a higher up than you.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
like, no, I don't see it that way. But anyways,
Yeah.
quirky little side note.
Yeah. He's like big three. Devil Wears Prada. I love. They just came out with an album last week, and I'm loving it. I'm loving it
Right?
so much. Yeah.
It
Have
is
you heard
getting a lot of.
Flowers?
Oh yeah, I've listened to it a few times now, and it's
Waves, right?
yeah,
We're on a
it's
mental health
getting
podcast. Waves hit me,
yes,
kicked me square in the
it did
face.
wonders for me. Yeah,
Yes.
like it was like I listened to that the first time. I was like, oh my gosh, like,
Yeah.
and I had to go over it again. But it's like one of their pretty soft songs at the very end, just how it, like
Yeah.
tapers off. I was
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
but
And I'm
they
huge Norma Jean fan as well. I saw them in Roswell right before I moved up to Albuquerque, and there was like 10 people. I think they stopped there just because it's Roswell,
uh,
New Mexico with aliens, but seriously, 10 people. It was a Tuesday night. Like, I was like, this is one of the biggest metal bands in my world, and 10 people are here.
10
Like,
people showed up.
yeah, like unbelievable. But yeah,
Yeah. But and it's crazy to me because I'm seeing a lot of hate on the Devil Wears Prada the new album because they changed their sound.
yeah,
But I listened to it and I was like, I actually really like it. I
yeah,
think it's pretty phenomenal.
yeah. And I mean, they fit in the vein of your emo, those obnoxiously
Hmm.
long, like the song titles have more words than the
Yep.
song lyrics. Yeah, those ones.
Yeah.
Like dogs have beards all over their body, like that type
And
of
they
stuff.
make no sense to what the song's really about.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, because they hit it's called The Act. That
Hmm.
is like one of my favorite. I had a lot of mental health breakthroughs and breakdowns to that album. But they hit this pivot point, and then everything after that has slowly started getting a little bit more palatable, I guess, to the
Hmm.
radio.
Yeah.
Like Cancer, you want to talk about mental health? Cancer, which was the last song off of their last album, was like, he wrote the song. He heard one of his friends died, and he's like, please let it be cancer. Like, don't let it
Yeah.
be a drug overdose or suicide. Like, I'd rather my friends died of
To
cancer.
have cancer, then yeah.
Yeah, which is like, I mean, the first time I heard that song, I'm like, this is so out of touch. Like, how in the world can you justify saying that? And then I'd listen to it again, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, like, that's how messed up the world is, that it's like, man, I'd rather one of the worst diseases known to man be the reason that you ended than having to know that maybe I could have reached out to you, or I saw your decline and I didn't do anything about it, or I did do stuff about it, but I couldn't do enough, you know? Like, again, just as soul-searching moments that we can have through a song. And I don't know the members of Devil Wears Prada. Like, I've never met them. I've never
Hmm.
seen them live specifically, but just this deep connection to be like, what are we doing? How are we moving through our lives? Are we doing so with intention? Are we truly making are we truly checking in on the people around us? Was kind of the takeaway that I got from Cancer. Um, but
Yeah.
yeah,
It's just, and you brought up something that's huge to me. And I think, well, two things. One, being intentional. I think it's a huge thing to, be intentional in your everyday life. Like, do things with a purpose. And then two, checking in on our loved ones. Like, I've told this story before on here, but I'll repeat it always because, like, I have a friend that I found out a couple years ago that he had some suicide attempts and almost lost his life. And I was like, dude, like, why didn't I know this? We kind of lost touch there for a while. And he's always been like my concert going buddy. Um, but I was like, well, how did I not know this? And it almost put like I felt bad and almost put like a pressure on me to like to be more involved with those friends that the ones that I was close with at one time. I mean, we're all in different parts of our lives now, like but like when you can, like reach out. Like
yes,
I tried to reach out to this guy at least once or twice a week just to see how he's doing.
yeah. And to that point, this time of year, Halloween all the way to the first of the year, some of the worst times from a mental health perspective. And a lot of people, one, you're busy, like everyone's busy and they're doing family things and they're going and doing all these things. But you look at like the financial pressure of, like rising consumerism and needing to buy more and more and more and more, and just not being able to live within your means or wanting to do more, or just this time of year. And then, it's supposed to be the happiest time of the year. Thanks. I'm supposed to be thankful. I'm supposed to be happy. And it's really difficult that if you're going through depression or you're anxious, you'd be like, well, I don't have a right because I'm supposed to be thankful. Well, you can be going through a crisis and still be thankful. So, I mean, anyone listening to the podcast and military communities specifically, we as leaders push it out, like check on your soldiers, especially during the holiday season, because it's so easy to be lost or left behind in this time because we're so busy. But it takes a second. We're all doing stuff, and it's easy to be like, "Hey, man, we're gonna go over do this Christmas hayride thing," just making something up. Why don't you come along, man? Just tag along, and there's just those little fleeting thoughts that you have to be like, "Hey, I wonder how so and so is doing." Shoot them a text. We are talking about stand-up comedians pre-show, right? And I'm a huge fan of Josh Johnson. He's a Daily Show correspondent. He's wrote for the Daily Show, and he's writes a new hour every night almost. And he had this one set where he was like talking about the TikTok trend of dudes calling each other, wishing each other sweet dreams. You know the joke I'm talking about?
It sounds familiar.
Yeah. So like it's basically this TikTok trend where dudes would call their buddy and they'd be like, "Hey man, just seeing what's up. I just wanted to wish you sweet dreams." And you watch dudes have different
Yes,
reactions.
yes.
Yeah. So some are like, why are you calling me? They get all like defensive. Some dudes like on the verge of a breakdown be like, "Nobody ever calls and checks in on me, man." And he jokingly, he was like, What happens if we accidentally prank our way into good mental health?" Just because it was a TikTok trend, you'd be like, "I'm gonna call my bro, wish him sweet dreams." But yeah. So
Yeah.
call your
Yeah, I
bros
saw
and wish them a sweet dreams, or your sisses. We don't
yeah,
have to nail it down.
I was talking to my wife about that and thinking of who I could do it to and who would react the best and who would be like, dude, what are you doing? Like, why
Define
would you do
best.
that?
You want somebody to have like
I
an
want some
angry,
I almost want somebody to that I think, I'd want to try to get like both reactions. I'd want
yeah,
somebody to be like, what are you doing? Why are you calling me? Stop being weird.
yeah,
And then I'd want a reaction of, oh, you're so sweet, dude. Like, thanks for thinking of me.
yeah,
Just I could probably guess who they would be like on my contact list, but I've never haven't tried it. So I should do it this week.
yeah. Let's do it.
Just to at least one of them. I should
Let's
do it
do it.
this week.
Yeah, I jokingly told my soldiers about it, and it was like in between. National Guard meets one weekend a month, and it was one of my part-time soldiers, and he was like, "Sir, I thought about calling you, wishing you sweet dreams." I was like, "Dude, but you didn't. You didn't. I could have used your call, man." So like, not to like guilt or
Yeah.
like, it's all in jest, like, but I mean, even thinking the thought and being like, "Hey, man, how often do we really check in on each other? As men specifically, but as humans." Like the thought crosses our mind. How difficult is it to be like, "Yo, thinking about you, man. Just hope things are well." You'd be surprised. You'd be surprised how many people can glean hope from that.
Yeah. And speaking of like, your you being a New Mexico National Guard, uh, if you do you would you care for like could I ask you a question about that?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just want to make sure you're down for it. What have been some of the mental health challenges you've had to navigate in that space?
Yeah, so I mean, when you talk about mental health, there used to be a stigma that people who have mental health issues, it was almost like your mental health and your physical health were not connected. So like in the army back in the day when I first joined, a lot of time has passed and we're getting better. It was like you broke your leg, they would put you on a profile and they would physical therapy, relax physical fitness standards until you got healthy and then, slowly work your way back in. Well, mental health was almost like hey, you admit you have a mental health problem. It's like damn, you're out. We don't have time to deal with that. So like I've watched over the course of my career that become a little bit more normal. So I've received a lot of training through the military. I've sought it out through it started with suicide intervention after my suicide attempts, and they call it ACE SI, and it's Ask Care Escort, and it's like the methodology the military uses to basically get people to safety. And as time has passed, I've received more and more. I became a certified mental health coach through the American Association of Christian Counselors, just to kind of take another step back from the traumatic moment of, suicide intervention, all the way to about 2 months ago, I attended resiliency training. So it's like at the source. It's like, what do you do to interact with people on a normal basis to build their resilience so that they're more capable of addressing adversity when we inevitably face it. And so I believe, and this is my belief. I believe that everyone that enters the military enters with a little bit of a discrepancy in terms of to do what we do, you have to have a coldness about it. When you talk about, matters of life and death is pretty much in every situation. And then there's this morbidity that you could be doing, routine convoy and all of a sudden people are dead. And that hasn't been my experience. But I have a lot of veteran buddies who had that is their experience. And there's these moments that you don't know you're going through a point of no return. It's like you're doing what you were trained to do, and then something happens and a switch flips and your innocence can never be restored. Once you've lost innocence, it can't be gained again. And so some of the naivety that I walked into the military with, I don't want to say it was taken from me. I do, but I don't. I'm cautious to say that it was taken from me because I don't want people to think like, oh, the United States Army took that away. No, like the evils of the world took it away from me. And we subject ourselves to those dangers to keep people safe, to protect liberty and freedom. And that's what we join for. And so just that aspect of kind of coming into the military needing some kind of resolution and restoration to begin with. I've gotten it, but I've also had moments where it made me realize that maybe I wasn't as resilient as I thought I was pre-military. So yeah, it is just like the example I would share is I told you that I was a child of divorce, and I didn't resent my parents for getting a divorce, but I never understood it. I was like, well, why? Like marriage is forever. And I was a small child. I was like, marriage is forever. Like, why didn't you just work through it? Like, it's not a big deal. Well, as I deployed, I had a 6-month-old son, which is the first time I went to foster home. I was 6 months old, and then I came back out and went again later. But that whole leaving on a deployment when my son was 6 months old, and I was like, dude, you're not going to be there for your son. And so there was this resentment that I harbored for a year towards the military because I was doing what I signed up to do, and it's not their fault. It's just what you do as a coping mechanism to be like, oh well, United States Army's fault for pulling me away from my family. Well, when you store all of your emotions for a year, you don't talk about them. You don't feel like you can talk about them, which is on me. Um, you get back off a deployment, and I had so many mishandled and mismanaged emotions that I didn't come back the same. And I will never be the person I was before my non-combat deployment. It was non-combat. I didn't witness death or destruction. It's just having that experience pushed me into a place where I couldn't handle my emotions, and it ultimately drove my divorce. So it was like those types of things that we're getting better at. This was 2011, 2012. And, I pretty much dedicated the rest of my military career or the remainder since then to one, getting healthy, and two, providing those resources and that assistance and that support back to making stronger soldiers so that we can inevitably face what we have to and then bounce back resiliently from those moments of adversity or trauma.
Yeah, and it's to me it's crazy that like you question your parents' divorce when you were younger. And it's like and then you get older and it's like things happen and it's almost like you come to more of an understanding of why things might have gone the way that they did
Yes.
to a point.
Yeah.
So you mentioned so I know you have at least one kid. Do you have any other kids?
I do have 5 actually.
You have 5?
Yeah, so I got remarried. My wife had 2 boys from their first marriage,
Okay.
her first marriage. I had the one from my first marriage, and then we had 2 together.
Nice.
So,
So are there any songs you hope your children remember you by?
I got a story for you, my friend. So, I have one little girl. I'm not gonna say her first name because
Yeah.
kids, protect them, but
Yeah, of
her
course.
middle name is Jane. So, I named her first name Jane because of Stain's Zoe Jane. When I was in college, I was like, wow, what a beautiful tribute from this messed up father to his daughter, like Zoe Jane. And as we were, I only have one daughter. So as we were naming her, trying to come up with names, I was like, you can pick whatever name you want. It has to be 2 syllables, so I can put her name in Zoe Jane when I sing it to her, and her middle name has to be Jane. It absolutely has to be Jane. And my wife's like, "Yeah, okay. That's a beautiful song. It's her middle name. We don't use middle
Yeah.
names, so it's not a big deal." And then like a little bit of time passed and I was like, "Hey, I need to come clean before, this goes official, legal on paper. Like there's another reason I want her middle name to be Jane." And my wife's like, "You got to be kidding me. You don't have like a girlfriend with that." And I was like, "No, no, no. It's not like that." Diary of Jane, Breaking Benjamin.
Benji, yeah.
And yeah, and I was like, I don't think anybody has the interpretation of the song because I've looked it up and no one sees Diary of Jane the way that I do. But in my opinion, it's like this like how disastrous men can be towards the female persuasion. And so like Diary of Jane was like, hey man, like don't put your daughter in a position where you ruin her. You know what I mean? So there's this like cautionary tale in Diary of Jane, in my opinion. No lyrical interpretation does that. My first son was 10 years, don't fight it. There's lyrics in that song specifically that Jesse Hassick says tomorrow doesn't hold on to yesterday, or tomorrow doesn't have to hold on to yesterday. And that song had so much significance. My son from my first marriage is like if he was sitting right here, you'd be like, yeah, that's your kid. He acts like me, he talks with his hands, uses big words. He's like 14. He's like, well, actually, Dad. I'm like, you're such a
I
nerd,
love
dude.
it.
Yeah,
I
like
love it.
he's like looking into the mirror and you'd be like, man, this is why people have a hard time with me sometimes. And then my youngest son was born with heart issues, and that's kind of a part of my mental health journey too. And Breaking Benjamin's Dark Before Dawn just came out. So that whole album was like huge for him, but specifically Angel's Fall from that album. And then as he grew up, he really loves Blue October's Calling You, a bit specifically the acoustic version. So I would rock him to sleep and play Calling You to him, and every night out just like that. It was just this like beautiful moment, and he to this day loves that song. So like my kids are about as obsessed with music as I am, because
That's
obviously that's all I do. But
that's super cool. Like I love all those stories. I'd have to say, so I have 3 kids. My
nice.
oldest is a girl, and I have 2 boys,
Okay.
ages 5 down to 1.
But yeah.
And there's a lot of fun in our house right now.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'd say that the one that I think that my daughter will remember me by is Brett Young Lady, and it's uh, basically the song talks about like how I hope that she'd emulate her mom and like the mom my wife will teach her how to be a lady and like help her with li- life challenges. But I used to sing her to sleep with it,
Nice.
and so and then my middle one, I don't know if there's one in particular, but it would probably be Nate Smith. What's there's 2 or 3 songs that I used to sing to him. I can't remember can't remember the words, like the names of them right now. But my youngest, it's definitely Newfound Glory, hit or miss.
Okay.
Just because we get like I get really like wild with him and dance around with him with that song, and he absolutely loves it.
Yeah.
I feel like, but they all love music, so I'm happy with that. And it's like I always joke with my wife that like one in every three people are emo. Which one of our kids is going to be it?
It's got to be the Newfound Glory kid. Come on.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
got to be.
But then, my 3-year-old boy, he's like very emotional himself, so I could almost see it being him too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always the middle kid, the misunderstood kid in the middle that no one
Yeah, but
loves.
yeah, I was the middle kid, so
Yeah, there you go. Me too.
so I want to go kind of touch base on your, your faith side of things. How has faith like helped you heal?
Yeah. So I've been through two really significant mental health periods in my life. The first one was in 2004. It was like 2000, late 2002, all the way through 2004. And really, my faith is what stopped that first one. And so it was like as I got into darker music, like really what it came down to is I graduated from high school. I went to college. Again, I like I told you before, I was the first generation college student. And really all my parents went, but they failed out after a semester, or most of them failed out after a semester. So the fact that I even hit the second semester of college was like unheard of in my family. So like I was just knocking goals down left and right. I was getting jobs, I was getting promotions, making more money. I was getting, like everything that I had my eyes set on, I was obtaining. Well, there was one thing, and I just felt this void, and this is where depression crept into my life. I was like, man, why am I not happy? Like, I grew up in a small town, so dating was like nearly impossible. I was legally adopted by a family who was related to half the town, so like that took everyone off the market for me. And I was not an okay person. I don't want people to be like, oh, he had plenty of No, I wasn't dateable either. Like I want to be clear about that. But yeah, so like I got to college. I got my first girlfriend. I got this job. I got a promotion to supervisor. I started college. Was elected to student government. Man, everything I was touching was turning to gold. But I still felt this void. And I was like, oh, it's got to be, like it's got to be because I'm not in a band. Like that's got to be it. Like I grew up in Southwest North Dakota, so you can probably vouch as much
Well,
as I can.
I can only guess like
Yeah.
how small of an area. I've been to North Dakota. My brother-in-law lives there and works like oil stuff, and
Do you know where you live?
I've been
Sounds like
there,
my part of the world.
but I honestly cannot remember the town of it. If you named a few, I'd probably
Is it
recognize the name. But
Williston?
yes,
Yeah, that's where I was born.
it's right around that area.
Yeah, yeah. So my hometown is 80 miles southwest-ish from Williston, but I was born in Williston, actually. So yeah, and so I was like, man, if I got into a rock band, if I got into a metal band, and we joke about emo. I hated emos. I was a goth kid, so the whole South Park like the goth emo thing is
Yeah,
real when
it
we're
is real. They're very true to
very
what they do on South Park.
very very real. And it's crazy because we have the same experiences, we just do different things with the emotion,
Hmm.
I guess, which is very relevant to talk about on a mental health podcast. It's like life has let you down and emos get sad about it and goth kids like get introspective and read Edgar Allan Poe. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, but I consider myself a goth kid listening to Korn, and I was like, man, if I had a full finger claw ring with the drama face on it, I painted my middle fingernails black, I dyed my hair black, I had a Korn shirt with a giant middle finger on it, those Hot Topic pants, like I'm super skinny, you can tell. I could The waist of my pants were smaller than the openings of the legs on one of the like I could seriously put one leg and live in it. And then we'd like go to movies and sneak 2-liter bottles of Mountain Dew in the movie theater in our back pocket. Like, yeah, so it was like, I was like, if I join a band, then I'll finally be happy. Well, I could never find, like, there was like two bands, and I quickly got ruled out of one. There's this kid who listened to a lot of Machine Head, and I was just like, I can't. I love Machine Head, but I just can't. I couldn't at that time be in that kind of band. So I eventually started a band with one of my coworkers. It was a Marilyn Manson cover band, and we basically rewrote Marilyn Manson songs. And it was like, no matter what I was doing, I felt like I was like, I should be happy. Like, I'm obtaining everything. There's no reason why I should be feeling what I feel. So really, I went to a Presbyterian church when I was little. And I remembered when I left North Dakota, 20 below zero plus a wind chill. I was like, man, I felt warm. Like, I felt love. I felt something different. So I actually was like, maybe if I go to a Bible study, there's this Bible study with this teacher who only came once a week. And so I was like, he's only here once a week, so I can go to his Bible study. I can live my life. I can just be a sinner the other 6 days, and he'll never know. He'll be like, oh, he's always so, like, whatever. So I figured I could do what I needed to do, feel good about myself for a little while, never have to commit to anything, and everything would be all right. Well, this Bible study teacher, it's a really long story. I talk about it in the book, but I go I I go to show up for this Bible study, and he'd been inviting me for about 15 months. And every week, almost every week, I'd be wearing a corn shirt. He's like, "Hey man, come to Bible study." I'm like, "I'm not your demographic, dog. Like, you really don't want me in your Bible study." I'm skeptical. I'm pissed off at God. He's like, "No, no, you're perfect." I'm like, "No, I'm not perfect. I'm gonna ruin a lot of people there." And I'm dead serious. Like, every time I was like, "Corn shirt, man. Like, really?" Now I'm wearing like a Demon Hunter death metal shirt here. But yeah, so he's like, "Okay, man." Like, he was not pushy. He'd invite, I'd say no. He'd be like, "All right," and then we'd eat dinner together, and he'd go his way, I'd go my way. Well, I decided, I was like, I'm gonna go to the study. Well, I show up and no one was there. And so I basically made a deal with God. And when I say, like, I gave him an ultimatum, I was like, you have until I get out of this building or I'm walking away forever. And honestly, like, I was already going through suicidal ideations. I already, like, was insomnia at night, envisioning ways to end my life. I honestly believe that that's basically what I was telling God at that point. I didn't say it directly, but I was like, "Hey, man, if you don't intervene in my life before I leave this building, I'm gonna get more serious about the suicide thing." And I basically got all the way to the door, and as I went to open the door, I was like, "You got a second? Like, this is a bold move as a human being." I was like, "You got 1 second, and I'm done. Like, and I'm not screwing around. It's over." Well, as I went to open the door, the Bible study teacher was there, and he kind of took me out to the side, and we did some, like, a study. And really, what it came down to, I was like, maybe maybe you're built for something bigger, like, your sense of purpose. Maybe it's this. And so, I went to Passion of the Christ with a friend, and after that movie, I just felt so guilty. I was like, dude, you're running around living your life this way, doing this, doing that. In the end, like, you need to live for something bigger than you. You need to figure out, and really what it came down to that first time is purpose. Uh, I'm really skeptical, and I'm going to share two things on the back end of that. I'm really skeptical to say that becoming a Christian is what got me out of my first mental health bout. And mainly because I feel like sometimes the church mishandles mental health stuff as well. Now they're getting better too, but there's certain things it's like, oh well, if you just become a Christian or go to a church or whatever, put whatever religion in there, well then your life will everything's going to be perfect. Well, that doesn't trump counseling. That doesn't trump medication if you need it. Like, that is what I did, and it worked for me for a minute. Getting to my second point, until it didn't. Like, so on my deployment, I was leading Christian worship for a contemporary service twice a week. Like, all, like, that was what I did. That was the first time I really played music publicly. And, I was elbows deep in the church. And when I came home is when my suicidal ideation spun up and led into the attempts. And I was a practicing and attending member of a church at the time, you know? So I feel like that's the other part is like, oh, well, if you're a Christian, you should never have issues with this. And I believe that the faith community, they don't do it on purpose, but they alienate at times to be like I hate with a passion the phrase let go, let God. It's like in the hierarchy of needs, you can't that you don't think logically when you're going through periods of trauma. You don't think like, oh, if I go to church, like you're seriously in a place sometimes where ending your life makes more sense than waiting it out. That's how sick your mind gets. So when you think you'd be like, oh, well, maybe if I, and at that point in time, I was actively involved, attending a church weekly, praying and trying to get connection with God, and it wasn't there. It wasn't connecting. And so there's a lot of guilt there too. It's like, oh, well, my faith isn't big enough to heal me. As I got off my deployment, and I'll share this, my stepmom has passed away, and I don't say this to blast her. Again, Assembly of God, and she honestly felt like she was helping me, but I was like, "Hey, mom, I don't feel okay," and she was like, "Well, you were in the Middle East. Like, do you think maybe you got possessed by a demon?" And I was like, "No, mom. Like, I'm bummed out and I'm overly anxious, and I went to go see a therapist." And they said I'm super like aware of myself more than most people that they know, and that I'm okay. I just like no one like I can't find an answer. She's like, "Well, did you pray about it?" I was like, "No, mom, I didn't even think. That never even occurred to me." I'm being sarcastic because if anyone hears my voice, they'd be like, "Is he being serious?" I was like, "No, that never even crossed my mind, mom." But it's all of that stuff that like faith has been huge in my restoration. And like I said, I became a mental health coach through the American Association of Christian Counselors. But that is one of the things. It's one of the tools. Faith is one of the tools that you can use once you get past that initial moment of absolute unsafety. If you encounter someone who is suicidal right now, one of the worst things you can do, and I'm saying this as a practicing member of the faith, is be like, all right, let's sit down and pray about it. No, like if you're gonna do that, you still need to take them somewhere. You need to get them
Yeah.
to a mental health institution, an emergency room. You need to get them on the suicide hotline. You need to get them somewhere where they are safe again. Separate them from whatever methodology they may be considering. There's a lot of things to it. Faith is a tool along the way, and it's a supplement. Now, the faith community would assassinate me for saying that. They're like, nothing is more important than God. Okay, but also, rational thought and seeing therapists, and that's a thing. That is a thing. Like God gives people training to do this, and that is their life mission, is to help heal people in that way. So go to a therapist, go to a doctor, get prescribed medication if you need them, take your medicine as you're prescribed. If it's not working, communicate with your doctor. All of those things are things that I've heard in various ways in the faith community that I didn't really set well with me. It's like, oh, well, I don't need medicine because my God's bigger than no, you need medicine. You need medicine. Take it. you know, Sorry, I went on
No,
a tirade there for a minute,
nope,
but
you're totally good, and I can relate to all that because I grew up in Utah, and so I'm a member of the Church of Jesus Christ,
uh
and I can fully relate on how things have been like mental health has been handled and that type of stuff, and has always been talked about. I think overall people are starting to talk about it a little bit more within the church, and but it's like and I think this goes for all religions, though. I think a lot of religions have kind of struggled with like speaking up about it. But it's like even though you're a member of whatever religion it is that you're part of, like you Christian or whatever, it's you have your beliefs, but that doesn't mean that just because you believe in God doesn't mean that you're not going to struggle. Like we, as far as I know, My belief is that we were sent here to struggle. Like, in my struggle is going to be different than yours, and I think it's how we move past it, how we decide to the choices we make to get through our struggles, and how we move forward with it. And I actually came up with a faith an acronym regarding the word faith,
Okay.
and I think it coincides with kind of what you were saying. So F is for foundation. You have to build a strong foundation within something that's higher than you. And I mean, for me, that's God, but for, somebody else, I don't think it necessarily has to be God. A is for attitude. You need to go through life with the right attitude, because it's like, I think of myself in times when I've had a bad attitude towards life in general, like that doesn't get me anywhere.
Right.
I is integrity. Just live with life being honest, like be true to yourself and true to others. T is for trust. You need to trust yourself and the ability to make decisions, and you need to build a community of people that you trust to help you through. And then H is humility. Just be humble.
That's awesome. That's a really good, basically like way forward and reminder. Um, yeah, and so to that effect, we actually, my wife and I, because my wife is a combat vet, she also served on a couple deployments. She's a veteran herself, and we ran a mental health support group. It's pure a mental health peer support group. So we're not licensed. We're not therapists. We're just people who care and we have a story. And so we sat when we lived in Roswell, we did this, and it was housed in a church. It was a faith-based type program, but like in some of the studies since then, you try to rectify, you'd be like, well, why am I so broken? You start thinking and trying to justify from faith perspective. Garden of Gethsemane was huge for me because I was clinically diagnosed with anxiety, and I'm like, well, I'm broken, and obviously I'm, in a fallen world, I'm this because of this or whatever. And when you pray and it doesn't go away, you're like, oh, I'm not something about, like, you start to feel fundamentally busted, even as you're in therapy and trying to figure things out. But one of the most reassuring things to me was reading through the Garden of Gethsemane. So now there's arguments, did he actually sweat blood, or was he sweating so profusely it was dripping white blood? I don't know. I'm not going to get into that. But in the Garden of Gethsemane, Jesus had a panic attack. So, no, like, whatever you believe, most people believe at a minimum he's a great teacher, really good teacher, all the way up to savior of the universe. Most people agree that he's a pretty good dude, right? Pretty holy and righteous dude. He had a panic attack. Like, so when you look at it, and he's like trying to pray, and he keeps sending his disciples away, and they fall asleep because that's what they're doing. Like, he's seriously having a breakdown. And if you read that account and be like, man, if he wasn't immune from anxiety and panic attacks, then I am not. Like, that was so reassuring to me to be like, if he was not always okay with the condition of the world that we live in, then maybe none of us really ever will be, if that makes any sense.
No,
So
that totally makes sense.
did you experience, and I'm not trying to dime out any particular faith community or whatever, but in terms of like your transparency about your mental health issues, have you found that it's okay or has been acceptable in faith communities, or has it gotten better over time, or is it like,
You know,
what's your experience with that?
I haven't really like dived into too much. I just know, like, with my personal experience, like it was so my mental health like struggles that I know about like started back in 2009 when I started having medical problems. And I could probably date small anxiety issues before that, but like nothing really big like stands out. But I think it's more of the way that like it was talked about, and members in the community it'd be like almost frowned upon of going through stuff. So I feel like it took me a long time to actually admit that I was struggling mentally. The medical condition was okay, but mentally, like, It took me a long time because I was so afraid of people passing judgment. But now I feel like there's been more open discussion about it. That it's they're making it the church overall is making it a you know a wider known thing that this is a problem that we're going through.
Yeah, and
So
it's
I'd say the experience has been about neutral. Like I wasn't like I mean I think overall most people within my community probably would not know that I have mental health problems. And it's not that I'm hiding it from them. It's just the neighborhood I'm in right now. It's like I don't know. Like I know people, but it's like I don't have like I'm not close to anybody. If that
yeah,
makes sense.
yeah. Yeah, and that I think that's why it's so difficult for males specifically, again, not to segregate any portion of the audience, is, like, I want to be a good dad. I love my kids. I really don't care. I go to work and I come home and I want to be with my kids. That's what I value as a child of divorce, as a that child lives with me now from my first marriage, but like a part-time father, at times it's like nothing else matters to me. But in that, you kind of isolate yourself. You can't share those types of issues with your kids.
No,
And
for
and
sure.
in that way, we as dudes trying to dedicate and invest in what matters the most to us kind of isolate ourselves to a point where we don't have the community to lean on because we've isolated ourselves. And every one of my buddies is doing the same thing that I'm doing. And it's so admirable to want to be a good father, to be a good husband, to be good in the home and helpful around the house. But in that, you cut yourself off from a viable part
Uh,
of the community. And I think that's part of the struggle with males in society with mental health is that when we need help, we're like, who do I even call now? You know what I mean? Like,
yes, for sure.
yeah,
And I think that I want to add on to that because I think that like because I strive for that same thing as being the best dad, and I want to say that like I'm not always perfect, and I think that my kids have been taught me more about unconditional love and
yeah,
infinite love than anybody else because like I can mess up like really bad, like whether it's they do something and I yell at them for something. It's like they turn around and they're the most forgiving human beings,
yeah,
especially when they're at this young age. And I know they're impressionable, and it's like, but all I can do is like you know make sure that I'm saying sorry, and when they forgive me, they're so quick to move on, and they still love me. But we have to be careful, I think, with the burnout side of things because I think it's important that while we strive to be good fathers and husbands and all that, I think that it's important that we find every once in a while our own thing to go do just to get away and do what we love. I had to I feel like since I started like having kids, it's like I started losing bits and pieces of myself. I hadn't been to a show for a long time. Um, I was always still listening to music, but like live music is like my thing. It's my jam. And then I started having to find like more hobbies. Like I've dived a little bit into photography.
nice.
I started this podcast as a right now. It's I don't want to say necessarily hobby because I don't think it's the right word, but it's something that I love doing. I love hearing like everybody's stories. Like I absolutely love it. It's like something that I can do to still identify with like who I am and not just be like not that I'm not trying to put fatherhood or being a husband like down. I'm just saying like
Right.
we need our own stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, it's yeah, that man, that resonated a lot. Wait, one day I've taken kids to concerts, so I took one of my stepsons to Demon Hunter in Lubbock, Texas. It was an amazing experience.
Nice.
Yeah, and so like him and I don't always connect, and so I was like, "Yo, you're going to this concert. We're going to the pit." And he's like, I don't really want to. I'm like, ah, you're going. And then we took them, same Lubbock, Texas. We took the whole family went to a Blue October concert in Lubbock, and we took some of the kids to Springs. And one day they'll be your concert buddies. I'm here to reassure you. You'll have little pit monsters breaking it up. So
I'm hoping so. I'll
when
have to be a little bit choosy with like what I take them to, just because I have to respect my wife and that she doesn't want them listening to screaming music. I said, well, what if they choose that? Like,
yeah
it's
yeah
more of a calling in life. And she's just like, yeah, not a chance. I said, you don't know. You don't know.
yeah you don't. And why would you deprive them of a larger portion of who they are?
Yeah,
Also, at that Demon Hunter
exactly.
concert,
Right.
I like my front. I'm not right on the rail usually when I go to concerts. If you've seen a metal
Hmm.
show, and you have, there's like the circle pit, and then there's that strip, and there's always on the rail, it's like 14, 15-year-old girls who think that this band's their favorite band and
Hmm.
they only know their hit song. That's the people who are right on the rail typically. And then you got those like loyal dudes that are like right around. We're not in the circle pit, but we're up on the front. And we want to be up on the front because we play an instrument and we want to see how they're playing the song. That's me. That's my crowd.
Yep.
And then you got the circle pit, but I'm always like, my back is the front of the circle pit. So I have like people bouncing off my back all night. And I do that to protect the 15-year-old girls on the rail, because if anybody hurts them, they're done. Like I will destroy these guys.
Hmm.
So, but yeah, it's those types of moments that you get to share with your kids. It's like pretty good.
Yeah, and I'm the guy that like I don't stand. I'm kind of a little bit away from the circle pit. I wouldn't
Uh-huh.
say like I'm way too far away from it, but if I'm down there, um, I'll be a little bit away and just kind of back off to the side just so I can see, just enjoy the music.
Yep. Yep.
I can't do the pits anymore because one of my last times I had a bad experience of where I fell over and almost got trampled.
Oh, yeah.
And the the group of kids that were like by me, they didn't try to help me out or anything. So it was pretty scary.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Pretty
that's
scary.
that's the thing about the metal community, is a lot of the time they do. And so like anybody who's not familiar with
Yeah.
metal, like what you just said is huge, because you were like, they didn't even try to help me. You'd be like, well, why would they? You guys are evil heathens. No, like we're very loving. Like
Yeah.
we're bouncing off each other, but if somebody like the singer will stop the concert if
Gets hurt.
somebody
Yeah.
falls. Like it is like I've heard stories of people breaking their legs and getting like they will stop the concert and EMT will come in and you know stretcher and get them out, and they'll be like, "Is everybody good? All right, open the pit back up." Like we are not monsters. We are, at matter of fact, we're probably the nicest people on the planet, and that's how we work our anger out. So you know,
And I think one of the coolest things about going to a show though, and I see this a lot with like metal shows, emo shows, is it's a place where you can go and it doesn't matter your background because everybody's there for the same thing and everybody's
yeah,
so chill.
yeah, yeah, and that is like being a music fan. If you haven't been to a concert, being at a concert is crazy enough. I've seen Garth Brooks twice, and I'm a huge Garth Brooks fan, so that like was an emotional experience to begin with. But heavy music, like in my experience, heavy music, there's this camaraderie. Like you're going through things in the pit, and you look over and you see someone else going through that, and you have this moment of unity without a word being said. And you want to talk like mental health, you be like full fledged, like spiritual almost connection to be like, yep, me too. Me too. I had a breakdown of this song,
Hmm.
Like there's this moment of unity that goes completely unspoken. And, like I can't tell you how many like fist bumps, like I'll look over, it's like a sad song and somebody's like tearing up and I'm fighting tears and we're like knuckles and then we go back to the next.
Hmm.
Like I've had so many of those unspoken moments in a pit that like you're already connected to the lead singer and the band because of one, they gave you this gift and that song healed you so many times. And now you're seeing them play the song that means so much to you. And then you look to your left and right and those guys are taking that same journey, and you're like, we're all riding the same bus right now. And it's just such a unifying and mentally healthy thing to do, you
Yeah,
know.
and I remember I can't remember who I was watching play, um, but it was years ago, and I remember like I was singing my guts out, and there was this person next to me that I didn't even know, and it was like we had one of those moments, so we sat there kind of with our arm around each other and
Yeah,
sang the rest of the song, and then I never saw the kid again.
ever. Yeah.
No, never. Yeah,
It's crazy that that's how unifying music can be.
yeah.
So they all think they're afraid of us, and that's what we're doing with our free time.
So if there's one track today that you could add to your soundtrack, what would it be and why?
So today, I closed the book out with Awaken Love by Lacey Sturm of Flyleaf. But today, one of my biggest songs right now is There Was a Light Here by Demon Hunter. It's off of this album. So Ryan, his mom just passed away. And part of my story is my mom kind of abandoned me, and I didn't really have a relationship with her. And as I became a parent, her absence reignited almost. It was like I thought I was over it, and then I became a parent, and as I looked at my kids, it became almost inconceivable that my mom would ever walk away or stay gone. Like, you would have to murder me to keep me away from my kids. You would have to end my life. Like, that's how simple it is to me. But she left on her own, And so I really had a hard time with that. And that's kind of like the whole, footnote to the book and the ultimate healing journey that I needed, the ultimate quest to my mental health that I needed to tackle. But There Was a Light Here is his mom is a fantastic lady. He has this amazing relationship with his mom, and she passed away this like last year. And to see what it was one of the first times that I heard a song and I didn't feel like I didn't hear the song and be like, oh, it's nice. He's got a mom that loves him. That's what I used to think and feel. But I felt sorrow for Ryan. Like as he's going through this, I was like I find myself praying for him when I hear that song and be like, man, it's tough. Like he's got a little girl and he talks about how he sees his mom and his daughter in this song. And I was like, man, that's so tough. Like, it's weird because this is the first time a song has ever moved me. I've always felt compassionate. I always like, oh, we're the same. But in this time is one of the first times that I'm like, I feel for you. I'm hurting because you are hurting and I don't relate to this, but I hope you're getting better. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And that song just it makes me reflect on my mom and it makes me love her. I don't wish that she was like Ryan's mom. Like, I just get this moment where I get to grieve and be sad with a guy who is basically soundtrack 50% of my adult life. So really good song. Your wife would approve it. It's a metal band, but it's a very soft and calm song. If you want to have a moment of unity between you and your wife, you take her There Was a Light Here and then just let it accidentally fade back to A Place in the Dirt on the front. But it's just this beautiful song. Honestly, watch the video. Watch the music video because you said something earlier and I wanted to bring this up. In the health community, I was sitting in I've been involved in substance abuse recovery as well, mainly because comorbidity exists between like people with a mental health crisis using a substance to medicate or people who have done so much substance generating a mental health. The comorbidities just that exist because of that is insane. But there was a licensed therapist who was talking to the group, and I asked a question. I don't remember what question I asked, and he's like, "Well, let me ask you a question." He's like, "Are you a parent?" And I was like, "Yeah, I have five kids, four boys, one girl." And he's like, "So if your kid screwed up, would you like grab their face and be like, 'You're an idiot'?" And I was like, "No." He's like, "Well, why are you doing that to yourself?" He's like, "'Cause that's what we do, all the negative self-talk." He's like, "Why is it so hard for you to look at yourself in the mirror and give yourself grace and to be like, it was a tough day. You could have done better, but this is where you did right. And this is how you used to react to this, but this is how you." He's like, "I want you to replace that voice in your head And the question I asked him had nothing to do with this answer. So like he saw like straight to my soul around the question that I asked him because he's
Mm-hmm.
the therapist. And he was like, next time you get those thoughts, I want you to imagine that you're talking to your kid, or even better, a smaller version of yourself, like you as a kid, because that's really where you're at right now. Is there was an unparented child or an unaddressed need when you were a child that you are still dealing with today, and you almost have to parent yourself. I remember like feeling so seen and moved almost to tears, and I was like, "Wow, that's amazing." But then there was also this sadness to be like, "Man, why do I have to do that to myself?"
Yeah, and it's,
And no matter how great your parents were, you could have grown up in a fantastic home. They still made mistakes, and you just gotta
yeah,
we all have healing. And so in this music video, you almost see him like he's sitting at the table, and I would imagine it's either his childhood home or it's like meant to replicate that environment. And you see him consoling himself with the words, way I envision it. You see him consoling himself about the loss of his mother with the words that she used to give him to console him. And there's this moment of beauty and just purity and human relationship, all from a metal band. So if you don't have at least one really nice round in your chamber about why heavy music is good with your wife by the end of this conversation, that's all I'm trying to give you.
well, I'm gonna go listen to it after this.
Yeah.
I can promise you because I'm intrigued.
Yes, it is. It's moving. You might tear up a little bit or cry. I cried the first time I watched the video, but yeah, it's basically the loss of his mom. To me, that song symbolizes the end of a selfish era for me. I'm not listen to that song to empathize with my brother, you know? It's weird. And I feel things and it heals me, but I have this moment with a guy that be like, man, I hope you can do what you are saying you are trying to do in this song. This is unbelievable. Highly, highly recommend.
I will go listen to it,
Make your wife listen to it with you.
and I'll say the one that is probably I'd add to my soundtrack lately. It's by a band, they're called Thousand Below,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
and the song's called "Save Me,"
Okay.
and it's off their newest album that just came out like probably 2 or 3 months ago. But the
Yeah.
album's pretty good. But in it, it's basically to me like the way um, how I got it or took it is to me it's like he's in love with somebody and they're not so much in love with him anymore, but in the end he realizes he just needed somebody to save him. And sometimes it's like I feel and when I heard this song it's like I feel like at times when I'm going through my mental health issues I feel like I'm a burden, especially to my wife, so it makes it really hard for me to sometimes be open and communicate in the way that I should. But at the end, I know like I need someone to save me and to help me through this. I just don't know how to push myself to. But at the same time, it's like I know that I'm giving her hell for
Yeah.
my issues that I'm dealing with.
Yeah. Yeah. And you see how your mind starts to trick you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, you feel like you're a burden. I I don't know your wife, but I know as a husband myself, like if my wife is going through stuff like that, I definitely want to hear about it. Like you sense it anyways, and to have it out
Yeah.
in the open. And again, I don't say that in an accusatory way in any way, shape, or form. I hope this doesn't feel like a chest poke, but
No, no, not at all.
the lies that we tell ourselves as humans, be like, oh well, I don't want to be a burden. Like, and like you're not. Like
Yeah. And
people want to come next alongside of you, especially you use the word in your acronym. You use a word that's basically like safety. Having trusted people, trusted agents
mm-hmm.
that you can go a little deeper with, a little bit like, hey, how you doing? Oh, I'm not doing so well, but I'll get over it. That's like surface level, and it's allowing you to be honest. But like there are those people you can dig deep with, and they want to be in those trials with you.
And it's like in those situations, like my wife's always really good to turn around and say, no, like you idiot. Like I want you to tell me. And it's like in the end, I know it's like a me thing
Yeah.
because most of the time, like we're really good like communicators, but it's just times like especially not so much with my anxiety, but with my depression, I tend to shut down. So just uh, one kind of last question, a few follow ups here for you. I feel like I could talk to you forever. Uh, a lot
Anytime,
of
man. We'll come back.
a lot of common ground that we've kind of found here.
Yeah, that's
But
awesome.
what's the one thing that you hope that people take away from reading your book?
So this book was really to push people into art and using art. Like I used art, music specifically, but I used art as a drug. And I had to gain a healthy respect for music. You've heard my journey as like, oh, rock is evil, and then I listened to it, and then I determined that it was evil, and then I threw it away, and then I was like, no, you're irresponsible. So like this whole thread of like what is going on with music in my life is really important. But the takeaway is that mental health, almost everyone's struggling with something, and my story, I say like I'm a hypocrite with a decent story. That's really what it comes down to. But I believe that I need to tell it, and I believe that I need to tell it in an artistic way. And so that's kind of my plea. I heard you say photography. You sound like you're a really huge music fan, but people may not listen to your story, but you can see something like a dark sunset where the clouds are behind mountains and it's treacherous and it makes you feel a way. Like it makes your soul feel connected to the environment around you. And you're like, I'm going to take a picture of that. And then you print it and you put it up on a board and people walk by and they're like, interesting, like now all of a sudden you have this connection that somebody might not have had with you. But now because you're showing them this picture, they're like, this is so dark and this and that. And there's almost like a conversation. And that's kind of what I plead with is when I say I found my voice, not just to tell my story in these platforms. I believe that I need to use my voice to write and record music and put it out there. And now that I'm done writing this book, I wrote the book first because it's easier, and really wanted to record the audiobook and get comfortable in front of a mic and learn how to use digital audio workstations. And like I've spent the last 2 weeks like recording the first song I ever wrote in my first bout of depression with insomnia. And that's what the song's about. And so that's what I'm pleading with people is it doesn't matter if the art is good, the skill will come eventually, but the tale needs to be told. Make art, tell your story because it's important. It is insanely important to tell your story and to make sure that it's not necessarily like you said in the beginning of this, is healing for you, but it's healing for the other people almost. You're allowing yourself to be seen and in turn allowing other people to feel seen through sharing what it is that you've experienced. And that would be my biggest plea is use that story to create art.
I absolutely love it. And where can people find you?
So I'm all over social media. Mainly I do a lot on Instagram. I'm recently started to spin up with YouTube now that I am writing and recording music, trying to do covers and just kind of getting people inside my world and create a connection. I used to want to be a rock star, but now I want to build a community. I want people to know that they are seen and that they're valuable. And I want to help people create art. Duelist Media is the footprint that I'm using to do that and to help people navigate through some of that stuff if they are interested. And I don't charge people. I just want to encourage people and listen to their story and see what they create. Um, so yeah, I'm social media. Those are the two big ones that I'm on. I have stuff going on Facebook, but it's not a lot of things going on there. As far as the book, if anyone's interested in picking it up, it is self-published, but I do have a publishing imprint that I established to like get it out there. But it's an audiobook, it's an ebook, it's hardcover, paperback. You can get it at Barnes and Noble, Amazon, all those things. Pretty much anywhere if you were to Google it, you'll be able to find it.
And I'll put all those links up in the show notes as well so people can easily access your stuff.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
And we discussed a lot of topics tonight. Is there anything that you'd like to bring up that we did not cover?
No, the one thing that I was afraid we wouldn't make it around to was the parenting yourself and the being kind to yourself. You know, like if you were to talk to your kids, what would you say to them? Or if you were to look back at a critical moment where you were mishandled or mismanaged and you could go back in time and sit down and hold your own little face and tell yourself one truth, what would you say and how would you say that? I wanted to make sure we got around to that. But I'll throw it out to you. If there is one thing that you could parent yourself in, what would you say to younger version of Travis?
Probably, I've always struggled, and I'm being completely vulnerable here with some anger issues, and I think I'd want to overcome them. They come out every once in a while now, and it's like in those moments I get so mean, like I raise my voice more, but I wish this is the one thing that I parent myself with as of right now. It reminds me of like there's the children's book called Grumpy Monkey. It's I don't know if you're familiar with the story, but basically there's this chimpanzee that goes around and he's grumpy and he has a friend that's like, well, why are you grumpy? So he tries to get him to do all these activities. In the very end of the book, basically basically it says like, you know what, it's okay to be grumpy. Like it's okay to have those off days. So like I want to teach myself that it's fine to have those off days, but there's no reason. Like I have the right to be like angry with certain things or grumpy, whatever, but I don't have the right to be mean. And that's something that I need to instill within my kids that we're trying to teach our kids is like, you know what, you could be mad at the world, but you can't be mean to us. You don't need to be mean. And I think I need to do a little bit better at practicing what I preach when it comes to that.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the one thing that I would leave your community with tonight. Be nice to yourself, man. Like it's easy for us as we get better from a mental health perspective to look at others with more patience and to lean into other people's stories with kindness and compassion.
Mm-hmm.
But we forget to do that to ourselves. You know what I mean? We're totally human, capable of error, and boy will we screw up.
Mm-hmm.
But
Over and over.
the beauty of humanity is that we get to try again. You get a redo and you get opportunities to learn from. You know, I tell my staff at work, fail forward, fail faster and fail forward. And just to have that grace with yourself to be like, well, that didn't work. And like, what are we going to do next? And that is so important because I tend to be a lot nicer to other people, but I'm not really always as good to myself as I should
Yep.
be.
Yep. I'm the same way.
I would just hope that, you know, you, anyone listening to this, even in the future, that we take that time and just give yourself grace. And you're doing the best you can, I'm sure. If you're not, fix that, but still give yourself grace.
And I think that's important one to touch is giving yourself grace. I think that's something that I try to emphasize as much as I can because I don't think we do it often enough.
Right. I agree.
Well, Tony, a couple of things. Thank you. Number one, thank you for your service and keeping this country safe.
Thank you.
And number two, thank you for spending so much time with me
Absolutely.
and having an enjoyable conversation.
Absolutely.
Or if you go ahead, if you're going to say something, you look like I don't want to cut you off.
No, no. I was just saying, man, I feel like we left so much ground uncovered. So if there's ever, I'm not just going to invite myself back on your show, but if there's ever an opportunity for me to come back, I would love to.
Yeah.
So
I
You
think
let me
we
know.
could go into a whole different level.
Yeah, you let me know. I mean, I
Yeah,
won't be
for
mad if you
sure.
don't, but yeah, there's so many things we just barely scratch the surface on, man. So
Oh, yeah, for sure. And thank you to everyone that listened. If you're a music lover, guarantee that this episode is going to resonate with you. So please share it and subscribe to our channel. You can find us on all major podcast platforms. Thanks again. Until next time.